Hello and good evening. I welcome you once again to another gripping episode of The Last Clue. I hope you and your loved ones are doing well and taking good care of one another. This world is filled with countless mysteries, some so deep that their truths remain hidden to this day. There are secrets that no one knows the origin of, stories that begin in shadows and end in silence. Today's tale is one such mystery, a haunting story from the year 1870, revolving around a grave and a bronze idol placed upon it. What lies beneath? Who placed the idol? And why has this grave continued to puzzle everyone for over a century? Let's uncover the forgotten truth. In every era, no matter the time or place, the presence of media has often stirred discomfort, especially among those in power. Whether it's the ruling government, the establishment, or ancient kings, they rarely appreciated the media exposing uncomfortable truths or challenging authority. Even in today's world of television and digital platforms, the pattern continues, leaders disliking what gets aired or published against them. Take Napoleon Bonaparte, for instance, not the one you're thinking of from your childhood history books, but Napoleon Bonaparte III, who ruled France. During his time, he maintained a firm grip on power for over 2 decades, and like many rulers before and after him, he too had his clashes with the media. During that time, France had a vibrant media scene with numerous newspapers in circulation. Among them was one named La Marseillaise, a title that might sound familiar, as it's also the name of the French national anthem. Interestingly, this connection holds even more relevance today, considering that the President of France is our chief guest for this year's Republic Day on January 26. Back then, La Marseillaise wasn't just a patriotic tune, it was also a bold publication that openly criticized Napoleon Bonaparte III's regime. The newspaper regularly published articles that challenged the government's actions, making it a thorn in the side of the empire. Napoleon Bonaparte had several cousins, and during that period, newspapers often featured stories and editorials about the royal family. In 1869, one such article was published that stirred controversy. It involved a cousin of Napoleon Bonaparte named Pierre Bonaparte. The piece mentioned some women who were associated with him, and Pierre took offense to the way the story portrayed those connections. The editor responsible had expressed strong views, which didn't sit well with Pierre. And as we know, crossing paths with royalty, especially by way of the press, was never without consequences. To put an end to the growing conflict, the editor of La Marseillaise decided to take a peaceful approach. He chose to send his brightest and most capable journalist, a well-regarded reporter named Victor Noir. Interestingly, Victor was also a distant relative of Napoleon Bonaparte III. The editor tasked him with reaching out to Pierre Bonaparte in hopes of settling the matter through dialogue. So, in 1869, Victor was sent to initiate a compromise and ease the tension. Discussions began and a few meetings took place, but despite continued efforts, the negotiations led nowhere. The situation remained unresolved, and the tension quietly escalated. On January 11, 1870, almost a year after the controversial article about the royal family had been published, Victor Noir was sent once again to meet Pierre Bonaparte, Napoleon's cousin. Acting as a messenger, he conveyed the editor's message in hopes of resolving the ongoing dispute. However, that day Pierre Bonaparte was in a fit of rage. In a sudden outburst, he pulled out a pistol and shot Victor Noir. Noir collapsed to the floor and died instantly. The shocking news of his death quickly made its way back to La Marseillaise, sending a wave of outrage through the French press and the public. The killing of a journalist by a royal prince sparked massive uproar across the nation. Public anger against the monarchy began to surge, and what was once quiet discontent turned into a growing movement. The moment the news of Victor Noir's death hit the papers, the opposition found the perfect opportunity to rally people. They used his death as a symbol of resistance. turning Victor Noir into a martyr for press freedom and justice. The monarchy came under intense criticism, and voices of protest grew louder by the day. Soon after, preparations began for Victor Noir's final rites, an event that would become more than just a funeral. It would become a political statement. Victor Noir's funeral turned into a massive public demonstration. It's said that nearly 100,000 people marched through the streets, protesting against the royal family while accompanying his body to the cemetery for burial. His death had ignited a wave of fury among the citizens. Tensions continued to build, and although the anger simmered through the early months of 1870, a turning point came in September. That month, France faced an invasion by the Prussian army, and amidst the chaos of war, the monarchy crumbled. The imperial rule collapsed, and those in power were overthrown, marking the end of that royal chapter in French history. As the monarchy fell, and France shifted its focus to new struggles, the voices that had once cried out for justice in Victor Noir's name gradually quieted. Over time, the outrage faded, and it seemed as though Victor Noir might be forgotten. Nearly 21 years passed since his death in 1870. But then, in a sudden wave of remembrance, the public once again turned their attention to him. To honor his memory properly, it was decided that his remains should be moved. His coffin was exhumed from its original resting place and reburied with greater respect in Paris's largest cemetery, a symbolic gesture to give him the place of dignity he never received in life. Victor Noir's body was eventually exhumed from its original grave, and plans were made to rebury him in Paris's largest and most prestigious cemetery, Père Lachaise. Following all the proper religious rites, his remains were respectfully removed and taken to the new burial site. When the coffin arrived at Père Lachaise, a grave hadn't yet been prepared, but the symbolic weight of the moment was deeply felt. The story of how Bonaparte had shot Victor Noir resurfaced in the public consciousness, reigniting the memories of that injustice. Once again, protests emerged, reminding everyone that Victor Noir's death had not only marked the end of a young journalist's life, but had also become a powerful emblem of resistance against tyranny. More than 100,000 people had joined Victor Noir's funeral, and when his grave was relocated years later, the story once again caught the attention of the media. It was as if, after 21 years, Victor Noir had come back into the public eye, his legacy revived. This renewed interest led some of his admirers to believe that something permanent should be created in his memory, something that would keep his story alive for generations. The idea of a statue was proposed, a tribute that would stand the test of time. After much searching, they finally found a renowned sculptor of that era and commissioned him to create a statue that would immortalize Victor Noir. No one gave specific instructions on what the statue should look like, only that it had to be impressive and cast in bronze. The creative direction was left entirely to the sculptor. He was simply told to create something memorable. Wanting to make the statue not just a tribute, but something that would leave a lasting impression, the sculptor pondered deeply on how to capture Victor Noir's story in a powerful way. He turned to the detailed reports published by La Marseillaise at the time of Victor's death, articles that described exactly how he was shot, how he collapsed, and the position in which his body lay on the ground. That image, frozen in the moment of tragedy, inspired the sculptor's vision. The sculptor studied every detail available: what Victor Noir was wearing on the day he was killed, the style of his coat, the shoes on his feet, everything. Using these descriptions, he created a detailed sketch that resembled the original crime scene, a sketch that had once even appeared in the newspapers. Immersed in Victor's story and visuals, the sculptor suddenly had a powerful idea. While reviewing that old sketch, he thought, why not capture the very moment Victor fell after being shot? That final instant of life, frozen in time. Inspired, he began crafting a bronze statue that depicted Victor Noir exactly as he lay on the ground after the shooting. And soon the statue was complete, a haunting yet striking tribute. The sculptor created a truly remarkable statue, capturing Victor Noir's features with stunning accuracy, from the shape of his face, nose, and lips to his ears, height, and build. Once the statue was completed, the team behind the project began to consider the most fitting place for it. After much discussion, they agreed that it should be placed right at Victor Noir's grave. The idea was well received by everyone involved. The statue was then carefully transported to the cemetery and positioned on his tomb in a lifelike reclining pose, just as he had fallen. The image you see today is that very statue, a powerful symbol that continues to draw attention even more than a century later. Once the statue was placed on Victor Noir's grave, a few people visited initially, looked at it, and quietly left. For a moment, it seemed as though Victor's story would fade away once again. But this was no ordinary graveyard. It was the largest cemetery in Paris, a place where dozens of funerals took place daily, where countless coffins arrived, and where hundreds of people came to pay their last respects. With such a steady flow of visitors, the statue didn't remain unnoticed for long. Every day, more and more people passed by the grave, and gradually, something unexpected began to happen. As people walked through the cemetery, one grave stood out from all the rest, the only one adorned with a full-size statue. And because the story had once made headlines, many already knew who Victor Noir was, a journalist tragically shot by a cousin of Napoleon Bonaparte III. The statue itself was strikingly lifelike and beautiful, which began to draw the attention of many visitors, especially women. It said that one day, while a funeral was taking place nearby, a group of women who were part of the mourners noticed Victor Noir's grave. Curious, they approached it, and that's where something unusual began. One day, as the women noticed the statue, they were struck by how gentle and handsome it appeared, moved by its lifelike charm. One of them leaned in and kissed its forehead, then another kissed its lips, and they quietly walked away. Over time, more people followed. The statue's features were so appealing that some kissed its hand, others its cheek, forehead, or lips, each visitor drawn in by something unexplainable. And slowly, a strange story began to spread. A rumor took hold in Paris that in the Père Lachaise Cemetery, there was a grave unlike any other, marked by the statue of a journalist named Victor Noir, and something about it was said to hold a mysterious power. The rumor quickly took a mystical turn. People began saying that any woman who was unable to conceive, who had tried everything without success, could become a mother if she kissed the statue of Victor Noir. Not just eventually, but within a year. As this belief spread, the media picked it up, and the story gained momentum. Across the world, countless women longing for a child, those who had prayed at temples, mosques, gurudwaras, and visited saints and healers, now turned their hopes toward this grave in Paris. Drawn by the possibility, they began making their way to Père Lachaise, chasing the promise whispered through rumor and faith. The rumor didn't stay confined to Paris. It began reaching women across the world. Many of them, married for years without having children, started visiting the cemetery not to mourn the dead, but for a very different reason. They came specifically to kiss the statue of Victor Noir, holding on to the hope that this mysterious ritual could bless them with motherhood. The statue, once a symbol of tragedy, now became a beacon of desperate hope. As more women arrived, the story gained new layers. One by one, fresh tales began to emerge, some claiming miraculous pregnancies, others speaking of dreams fulfilled, all centered around that single bronze figure in Père Lachaise. Soon, the stories surrounding the statue began multiplying. One tale claimed that any woman who kissed the statue would become pregnant. Another suggested that unmarried women struggling to find a partner could touch the statue's right foot and soon meet a loving husband. Touching the left foot, it was said, would bless them with twins. Some believe that kissing the lips, touching both feet, or even placing a rose in the statue's hat could fulfill their deepest desires: marriage, motherhood, or both. As these stories spread like wildfire, the rituals around the statue grew more elaborate, and Victor Noir's grave became a place not just of mourning, but of hope, mystery, and modern legend. As time went on, the rumors grew even more peculiar. Whispers began to spread that if a woman struggling with infertility touched the statue's private parts, she would conceive. This belief quickly reached beyond Paris, crossing borders and cultures. Thousands, even millions, of women from different parts of the world, some longing for children, others waiting for the right partner, began to see the statue as a symbol of hope. Many made special trips to the cemetery, driven by faith in the legend. As they arrived, each followed their own ritual. Some kissed the statue, others touched its feet, and some, moved by desperation, touched the parts rumored to bring fertility. The grave, once a quiet corner of history, became a destination charged with emotion, belief, and longing. Some were touching the statue, others were placing their hands on its feet, while some were even rubbing it, each following the rumors in their own way. Over time, the bronze statue began to show clear signs of these rituals. The areas that were frequently touched or kissed started to shine noticeably, their surface polished smooth by thousands of hands and lips. In contrast, the rest of the statue retained its original bronze patina. As more and more women continued these acts of belief and hope, the statue began losing its original finish, and it became clear that its condition was deteriorating. Concerned about preserving the statue, the creators and caretakers decided something had to be done. They concluded that the rituals had to stop, especially those being performed by women and young girls visiting the grave. This story, which began in 1870 with Victor Noir's tragic death and continued with the transfer of his grave in 1891, took a new turn in 2004. By then, the statue had significantly lost its original color due to years of touching, kissing, and rubbing. Concerned about its preservation, the cemetery management, or those responsible for the statue, decided to take action. They placed a rope barrier around it and installed a warning sign stating that anyone who touched the statue would face legal consequences. The public was no longer allowed to approach it closely. As soon as this restriction was imposed, it triggered outrage. Thousands of women who believed in the statue's symbolic power began protesting against the decision, demanding access to what they saw as a source of hope and blessing. The protests grew intense against the cemetery management, the graveyard administration, and all those responsible for restricting access. The number of women standing up for their belief was so overwhelming that, eventually, the authorities had to give in. Within a few days, they withdrew the decision, removed the boundary, and allowed visitors to approach the statue once again. They announced that anyone who wished to come, pray, or follow their faith-driven rituals was free to do so. And so, the old tradition resumed. But this is just one side of the story. On the other hand, many people dismiss these beliefs entirely, calling them baseless. They argue that there's no scientific proof to support any of it, and that, too, remains a truth hard to ignore. It has never been scientifically proven that touching or kissing the statue leads to pregnancy. Yet, countless women have shared personal stories claiming that after years of failed attempts, despite being married for 10, 12, even 15 years, and consulting multiple doctors, they finally conceived within a year of visiting the statue. These women, filled with gratitude, returned to Victor Noir's grave after giving birth. Many brought flowers as a gesture of thanks, while some even left behind photos of their newborns, offering silent tribute to the figure they believe have fulfilled their deepest wish. A large number of women have shared stories of visiting the statue, touching or kissing it, and later finding the life partner they had long hoped for. Many of these women, along with their partners, returned to Victor Noir's grave to express their gratitude, leaving roses and small offerings as a token of thanks. But just as many believe in the statue's mysterious power, there are also countless others who dismiss it entirely, calling it superstition and nonsense. And this highlights a deeper truth. Superstition isn't something unique to any one country. It exists everywhere, not just in India, but across the world, wherever hope meets mystery. To this day, no scientific study or medical explanation has ever confirmed that touching the statue can lead to pregnancy or help someone find a life partner. Yet, on the other side, there are thousands who hold on to this belief with unwavering faith. Women who say that after visiting the grave, kissing the statue, or simply touching it, their lives changed. Some became mothers, others found love. So this story has two sides, one rooted in logic, the other in belief. But how true is it? How real is this connection? That remains unanswered. From 1891 to 2004, and even now in 2023, no one has been able to offer proof. It continues to be an unexplained mystery, a strange puzzle that lies somewhere between faith and the unknown. The world is full of wonders, filled with all kinds of people, strange happenings, and mysterious stories that often leave us speechless. That's why I felt it was important to share this story with all of you, my extended family. I also wanted to mention something special. I've noticed that many of our listeners, especially men, tune in from Paris and various parts of France. In fact, I can recall at least 15 to 20 regular listeners from Paris alone. So to all our dear family members listening from Paris, this story must feel even closer to home, coming straight from the heart of your city. I want to say to the rest of our extended family, of which I am also a part, that if any of you ever come across the truth behind this graveyard and the statue, whatever the real story may be, please do share it with me. Whether it's through photos, a video, or even a simple message, send it to me so I can pass it along to others. That way, we can all understand how much of this tale is rooted in truth, how much is myth, and what the real history behind it is. This is my humble request to our family, especially to those who live near or visit Père Lachaise, the largest cemetery in Paris. If you can send anything from there, I would love to share it with everyone. So that brings us to the end of today's story. If today's story gave you chills, then believe me, this is just the beginning. The Last Clue brings you true stories every week, real, disturbing, and drawn straight from the darkest corners of the human mind. If you're someone who's fascinated by true crime, psychological thrillers, and unsolved mysteries, then hit that subscribe button right now, because the next story might be the one that keeps you up at night. Subscribe because the truth won't wait. I'll return next time with another gripping and unforgettable tale. Until then, take care of yourself and your loved ones and stay safe. Thank you so much.